A lot of the early fighting games that hit the scene after the release of Street Fighter II have had a bad reputation amongst those unwilling to really explore the fighting game genre. The titles of Street Fighter Knockoff or Street Fighter Clone were and still are applied to many fighting games that released in the early 90s, but I think that's an unfair judgment because many of these so-called ripoffs were also innovating the genre in their own unique ways, no matter how obvious their inspiration was worn on their sleeve. But in this video, I want to talk about a little game that knew what it was and unabashedly flaunted it. The infamous Street Fighter II. So before we even get to the game, I gotta give y'all some background on what led to the creation of the first ever parody fighting game. Back in mid-80s Japan, a music producer named Satoru Hagiwara got tired of producing funky bangers and left the music industry to pursue the growing hardware and PC markets. He then founded a little company called Hacker International, who'd soon be causing all sorts of trouble for Nintendo. You see, all of the experience in the music industry made Hagiwara keen to legal gray areas that could be exploited for big monetary gain in other markets. So he started publishing Hacker Magazine as a hub for, software and hardware hacker enthusiasts, so they can congregate together. Hacker International's first big product would be the Hacker Jr., which is an upgraded Famicom console with composite video out and turbo controllers, which is honestly really cool, but they totally got sued for it by Nintendo, which they eventually had to settle out of court. Hacker International would have other hardware attempts that walked on legal thin ice, but more importantly to us, they would then find themselves in the unlicensed game world outputting sleazy pixelated games with adult content. These adult games were being bought like crazy too. Hacker was reportedly selling anywhere from 30 to 50,000 copies for each pixelated breast endeavor, and they didn't have to go through any console manufacturing licensing fees, and according to Hagiwara, they were really easy to make too, because they were low content games. You just have to make something simple that 90s Coomers can rush through to see their 8-bit waifus. After tackling many different genres with their adult games, Hacker's next attempt would be a sinful take on the hottest genre out at the time, fighting games. But fighting games are hard to make, so Hacker International licensed a fighting game engine from a Taiwanese company called Computer and Entertainment Incorporated, whom they worked with before and had just conveniently released their own fighting game not too long ago, Super Fighter, for DOS computers. Now, the story of Computer and Entertainment Incorporated, Super Fighter, and their other fighting games are a long story that deserve its own video one day. But now, we can finally talk about Street Fighter II. With all the pieces together, in 1993, Hacker International released Street Fighter II for the PC Engine in Japan and Taiwan under their Game Express brand. The game of course has you battle with 6 different female characters, going through a tournament ladder where after every round, a random scantily clad woman, who isn't even one of the playable characters, tempts the player to win the whole match so they could be rewarded with full body pixelated nudity. Just for a few seconds. The 90s were tough. Street Fighter II plays very standard for the time, because it was just trying to parody Street Fighter II, and it's either a 2-button game or a 6-button game, depending on what controller you're using. I'll be playing it in 6-button mode, where you have light, medium, and heavy punches and kicks. But light, medium, and heavy buttons are really just the same button going at different speeds, or an attack with cut frames of animation. This is still a bootleg game. You still have special moves that are done with your standard quarter circle motions, except Street Fighter II isn't very lenient with its move interpreter. When doing special moves, you better be precise and return to neutral when required, or your character is going to be whiffing like an idiot. This even goes for things like crouching. You have to hit the down input specifically to crouch and nothing else first. So if you want to crouch block, you gotta go directly down and then move diagonal down left or right. This makes Street Fighter II feel a bit stiff, which fits the game if you know what I mean. But there is still some cool stuff. Every character is unique, and honestly, they don't have bad designs. You have the Eagle Woman Bella, who can get some cool juggles. Cowprint Martha, who can Samchai knee you and then get Fireball Oki on you. Medusa, who is notable because she's Medusa and can also throw loop you. Nina fights in lingerie and also has this walking animation. Yuki is your ninja girl with a power wave and also shows her damn butt cheeks when she shoryukens you. And then finally, we have our grappler Amanda, who literally has titty juggles. As you could probably see, infinites and loops run pretty rampant in Street Fighter 2, and that's because, well, you can't block immediately on wake up. Your character needs to finish their get up animation before they can act at all. So meaties can hit all day for free if you're tight with the buttons. To make it even goofier, some wake up animations make a character airborne, so you can hit stupid cool juggles off their wake up too. This turns Street Fighter 2 into a very volatile game, where both players are ready to kill the opponent off any interaction, which is honestly easier said than done most of the time. Interestingly enough though, the game does have an infinite protection system that tries to push you out of the corner Mortal Kombat style, but it's really just a band-aid trying to stop a door from opening. I'm obviously not trying to hide the fact that Street Fighter 2 is really janky. The game is essentially a bootleg indie hentai game released for the PC Engine, but I do want to put it out there that the PC Engine was a weird middle ground between 8 and 16-bit hardware, and there are only really 2 fighting games released on the console's original hue cards that didn't need any add-ons to boost up the system's capabilities. One being the insanely solid port of Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, and the other, well of course, is Street Fighter 2. And they released the same year, so I can only assume they were in development alongside each other, so I think it's a pretty impressive independent endeavor. But there are still some cool nuances to appreciate, and there have been players who tried to crack this game open, like Anani Mommy, who wrote the Street Fighter 2 Bible all the way back in 2003, and Big Zam, who's really broken the game down with modern character and system guides. No, like seriously, Zam's New Testament for Street Fighter 2 is a super detailed guide and goes through a lot of the esoterics that I would never have been able to figure out by myself, so big props to him. And that's the kind of beauty that I want to showcase, not only for Street Fighter 2, but for the fighting game genre as a whole. We have a game that was obviously a weird money grab from a team of random developers from over 30 years ago that most people would probably just write off. But the fighting game community can find gold in anything, and we have players pushing the limits of a system that the developers themselves probably never expected to be broken down. Simply because fighting games are fun. It's not just a joke, there is intentional design behind the game, and there are also players playing that game with intent. And you never know. As the infamous saying goes, chances are there won't be a Street Fighter tournament coming to your town anytime soon. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be training for one. Street Fighter 2 is playable on FightK2 right now, so if you want to breast loop some people online, don't let shame stop you. Thanks.